Hello everyone, welcome to the Car Guy Right. Today we're working on a 2006 Kia Sedona with a Misfire. So we're going to attempt to find the problem. Well, sorry, I already know what the problem is. So I'm just basically showing you what you can go about looking for if you have a misfire. So one of the main common reasons that you get a misfire on one of these vehicles is your wiring loom for the injectors breaks down. In fact, on this case, on this model, it's actually melted. I've replaced injector number 3 because that's what it came up with on the scan tool. To remove this, and we will go about removing the intercooler on top. Okay, so now we're removing the clamps on the pipes connected to the intercooler. They are a 7mm, so we'll start removing the one at the front, and then we'll remove the one at the back. To remove the bolts that secure the intercooler for the engine. They're 12mm. On this one, I've done an engine swap and a gearbox change and a new clutch system. Okay, so here we have all injectors 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now the wiring loom seems to be pretty much dead on this, as you can see in there. So we're just going to go about down in there. There's 2 little clips, see right there? You have to squeeze those together, and out comes the old loom. And then again the same for these ones. Generally, if you've got a misfire, you get check engine light, your engine will potentially start completely shaking, like one of your engine mounts have gone. You could have a variation of issues with it, really, loss of power, not starting. And in this case, I don't think I needed to replace number 3 injector. As you can see, it's all brand new, it's still got the coding on. And there's one dead wiring loom, as you can see. In fact, it's absolutely knackered. It's all melted, and the wires in there and the contacts just get crusted and it won't work anymore. So with that off, checked all the injector wells, they look relatively clean. There's no oil in there, so that's a good sign. When you take one of these off, inside here there should be an orange seal, like so. So when you go to install a new one, make sure that it's got an orange seal and it's not stuck inside the injector like that. So if you double up on the gasket, you will have a problem with it and it'll misfire again. It won't get a proper connection. So they're all fine. In fact, the clip is still stuck onto that one. That's how absolutely knackered it was. It was melted. So let's go ahead and get the new loom. Okay, so here's the new loom. As you can see, all the connections are much better. Relatively new. we'll go ahead and install this. Okay, so with these new wiring looms, the way to do it is you start from this injector and you thread your way back. So you start with your 4 plug injector and you basically go underneath your injector lines that supply the fuel for your injectors, like so. So then you've got the right amount of cable and it's done the correct way as well, because then with these pins here your wiring loom sits in like so. This one, number 4 sorry, injector needs to come across a bit more, so we need to go under the wiring and down and in. And these connections will only go on one way, so you can't really mess them up. So there's one. There's 2. Now they are a little bit fiddly, so you might have to do a few adjustments. There's 3. And there's 4. Okay. Now with your 8-pin connection, this should just slot in. This will only go in one way again, so you've got 2 pins at the top and 2 pins there to line up. Make sure this red tab is out all the way. Push that in, you should hear it click, and then push the red tab in the rest of the way. And then you want to lock that in there. Now lastly, we want to get ourselves a screwdriver and just adjust this hole here so your new wiring loom can fit into it, and then you want to tighten it down. Just keeps things nice and neat. Just double check them injector cables. They are all in okay, as they should be, which is great. There's actually a bit of old loom there. We don't want that in there. And there we should not have any more misfires, because as the way it was working before, you touch this wire here on this loom and it would steady out, so that gave me the right indication that the wiring loom was broke. Over time, the heat on these engines, they just get to the wiring looms because it's directly on top of the engine, because then you've got the heat cover as well to go on top of here, which then keeps all that heat trapped inside the engine bay, and over time it just melts the engine, it just melts the plugs, and they just break down and they fail. But in my case, I misdiagnosed this. The scan tool didn't tell me it was one of these plugs that had gone faulty. I did do a scan test, a voltage test on it, and each plug should read about 2.7 volts. So I must have had the plug in this almost the right position for it to get the voltage reading. As you can see, that is all nice and neat. That screw there I just adjusted just to get this into the right position. That one is holding there with the 10mm bolts if you need to adjust that. So let's go ahead and put the new engine cover on. Now, just as an FYI, this is your fuel pressure regulator sensor for your fuel rail. There we go, now we thought of the name. So basically what I've done, because I've replaced this engine, on the original engine, this sensor was here. Now obviously the wiring loom was only made so much, so the sensor would go onto there, and the wiring loom would go to that one. So I've had to, only way I could do it was chop these wires and extend it with some proper wiring loom. So you can see there, it's all properly insulated. It has been soldered, I've soldered it properly, and then underneath in this wire it's also heat shrinked as well, so it's all nicely protected, it's all properly done, so you've got a solid connection there. So if you do run into that issue, that's what you need to do. Okay, so after it's all back together, the wiring loom is back on for the injectors. Let's see how she starts. Sounds like we might have a flat battery too. No, maybe not. There we go. Check engine light is off. and that runs lovely. Lots more responsive on the throttle now. As is before, you get to 2000 and it kind of starting to struggle. So that's what you need to do, and that's what to look for should you have something like that arise. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped you, some useful information for you. Until next time, thanks a lot, bye.